We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I speak from the role of a patient, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your other host, Michelle Harvey. I am Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver. And this weekend, we got done with Take Steps.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Yes, it was really nice. Weather was a little cold for San Diego.
Which made the walk nice for me, at least, because when you walk the mile.
We get a lot of June gloom here. So if you are familiar with the area, we hit June. May gray is also another term. So May and June, sometimes you're not going to get sunny weather. And so yesterday was one of those days. And
it was chilly all days.
It was, but everyone made the best of it, had a good time, and the walk ended up being perfect.
Yeah, it was fun.
Temperature, it was fine. And our foundation raised, it was like over $170,000, our local chapter.
Yeah.
And we all the teams pitched in. Everyone did a great job, all the sponsors. So it was a really successful event. And we also had a table there for our podcast. Yeah. And we have a giveaway, which we're not announcing the winner on this podcast. Yes, I think we'll do on the next one because I want to be able to announce on social media at the same time.
Suspense.
Yeah, so we will coordinate that. But there were people who entered. So if you're watching us because you met us at Take Steps in San Diego, welcome
to our podcast.
Yeah, good to have you here. And we unfortunately didn't convince anybody to answer any of our questions yesterday.
You gotta be fair. You're going to Take Steps. You don't really expect to go there to be recorded,
You don't really know us. And you might be like, well, what kind of podcast is this? So now is your chance to see what it's like. And maybe in the future, if we would like to have any guests and you'd be interested, you're welcome to contact us. And it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about today. Which similar. I mean, that's kind of like a weak segue, but I'm trying. Because today's topic is, do you feel like you're always having to explain your diagnosis? And when we asked people yesterday if they wanted to answer a question or be on the podcast, it was done respectfully and in a way which we understood that it's up to you if you want to discuss it. And a lot of people don't.
If we give them questions, it's not like we ask them a question. We gave them a little paper with questions on it.
So they could pick one.
Yeah, with an answer that they felt comfortable with.
Right. So that was the idea. But at the same time, we also were like, probably going to have nobody do it.
Yeah.
We'd already counted on that. But the main thing we wanted to was meet you guys and hear your stories and connect. And we did. We met a lot of you and got to hear.
It's actually eye-opening in a way, going to Take Steps, because there's a lot of patients there go to this walk, they go to the walk and they participate in it. They go there in person and we ask them how their disease is going and they say not so good.
Yeah. And I would say that was a large percentage.
That's a large percentage
of people who
came by our booth.
Yeah.
Which I think that's just impressive to me that you are so dedicated to this. So
right. To the fundraising, raising awareness.
Even though you're in a flare or whatever is going on, you still participated in this event.
I thought the same thing because I was impressed.
If I was in a bad flare, I don't know if we
would not go if you were in a bad flare. No.
If I was in like maybe a small one and it wasn't that bad, I would go. I would want to go. But it's just impressive to see so many people who are sick decide to go there.
Yeah, and also that you were willing to talk to us. And because I always try to be a good balance and of like if somebody tells me their situation, like what they're taking or what treatment they're doing or what treatment they're not doing, I always have to be really careful because I want to share Mason's story because
you
he's
don't
done
want
well.
it to sound like you're telling them.
Right. But I also know that Mason's story may not be the same at all as their story and what worked for Mason.
Like we've said many times on this podcast before, Crohn's disease is different for everyone and it's not really the same for anyone.
Yeah.
Like for me, I was able to help my Crohn's disease with biologics,
because it's different. I think and that's the thing
all the
is,
symptoms are different too.
yeah, and people don't, a lot of times, they base whatever story they've heard from whoever they know, that's how they base a reaction on you having this disease. Like, oh, well, my friend does this, that can't you do this? And then it's hard to explain. So I think that's kind of why it's important to talk about this and do this podcast, because a lot of times you feel like you really have to over explain or explain your diagnosis.
Which you shouldn't have to do.
And you shouldn't, because the thing is, maybe you're afraid people are going to say something hurtful to you or give you opinions about what you should be doing. Like it's the only way to do this, or make you feel bad about the treatments you're doing, have an opinion on that as well. And, when Mason was diagnosed, it was personal for our family, and it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're someone famous or you're someone, not famous, but how you want to talk about your own diagnosis is your decision.
You don't have to go around like me to events.
Yeah.
Raising awareness, that's if that's not your thing.
And for a lot of people, it's not.
It's not.
And
I don't really know. I just like to raise awareness, and
yeah, well, it's just
talk about
something
it,
that makes you feel better. Other people may scare them and they don't want to do that.
For me, it feels like the disease is controlling you to not be able to do this stuff,
Yeah.
So I think one of the ways I can fight the disease and go against it kind of is by speaking out and raising awareness against it to help
That makes
find a
sense.
cure and things against it.
And that's why I'm thinking there's other people out there who may figure that out too if they try, and maybe they haven't yet. So the important thing though is, it's like Mason saying, was his choice. It's what made him feel better. But the bottom line is, you don't owe anybody any explanation about a diagnosis ever. That's between you, your doctor, and like in Mason's case, he has parents who are involved. But if he was an adult, it may be a different situation. He, with his partner or his family in the future, things will change and evolve with who's going to find out about this diagnosis as he goes along. But as it is right now, you don't have to explain to anybody. And
unless it's my doctor.
Yes. And so some of the reasons why it might even be something you don't want to share or explain is because it might be difficult for you to even talk about. And it's just, who always wants to talk about their disease and feel like every time they meet somebody or are going to an event and have to explain something, it's like, I don't have to explain it again. I don't want to talk about it. You just don't want to talk about it. So I Take Steps is cool because everyone knows
you have Crohn's.
We're all there supporting this. So it's a very different environment. But in typical places, you don't know who you're going to be talking to and who you're opening up to. And sometimes you haven't even, like, maybe it's upsetting to you. Maybe you're going through depression with it. Maybe you haven't processed all your emotions when it comes to this disease. And so, like, it would bother you when you were first diagnosed. You probably wouldn't want someone pushing you to tell them what all about your diagnosis, because
at the time when I was first diagnosed, obviously I wasn't as comfortable with it,
right. And
yeah,
that's something that changed. But at the beginning, it was a lot of emotions. It was stressful, it was upsetting, it was angering, and we also didn't know a lot about it. And so
I couldn't even talk about it much if I wanted.
Yeah.
I could talk about how I feel. I could talk about my symptoms, but I can't really tell you why I'm feeling like that or other reasons or the causes and stuff.
Right. Because it's like, you don't want to feel like you're explaining your diagnosis to somebody and then they explain it back to you like, no, that's incorrect.
And you're like,
you don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to. So you also don't want people to view you differently. Like they're going to look at you now and be like, hey, there's the person with Crohn's, like they want you to say, hey, there's Mason, first and foremost, like, this is Mason. And so I think sometimes you don't want people to like pity you or feel bad or just see you like different. You just want to be you and you don't want to talk about it and explain everything. So that could be one of the reasons too. You just want to kind of blend in and stay neutral. You don't want to stand out. And the thing is, though, like we're kind of saying, and it's so even doing this podcast, it's Mason's decision to talk about it. And so if he doesn't want to, that's his decision and he doesn't have to. And a diagnosis is always personal. And, no matter what the reason is, we talked about just a few now, but no matter what the reason is, it's always your decision and you should feel comfortable knowing that, it can also be something that maybe it's not like it's like you're not opposed to talking about it, but you just don't want to hear people's opinions. I mean, a lot of you can relate, IBD or not. Yeah. Well, you get a lot of opinions
Yeah.
the minute you say you have Crohn's disease. And people are either telling you about someone they know, what they did, and what you could do, and or
You know
how
what?
you
If
look.
had Crohn's disease, they cured it by excluding bread.
Yeah. And so it makes you probably feel like, well, they're judging me thinking I'm causing this disease because I ate bread when they really have no clue what you've gone through. It's just kind of
It's
like
different for everyone.
when you share things, other people are going to share their experiences and they're not trying to be rude.
No.
They're trying to connect with you. And so I think though the people who are already kind of saying, I know what they're going to say to me. I know what they're going to say. And it's like that you don't want to explain them. Well, let me explain to you how this all goes. Then you have to really keep talking about it and start explaining what the treatments you've been doing, all this stuff. And so some people they don't want the opinions on your diet or your treatments or, what the disease is or what it's caused by or anything like that. So it can leave you frustrated when you finally do tell somebody about your diagnosis and then they come back at you and have some kind of opinion that makes it more difficult or you have to explain more. And so sometimes it just leaves you feeling misunderstood or hurt. And so you kind of learn like, I'm not going to tell anybody about this. So there could be things like that. It could just be something you just don't want to hear it. For Mason, when he was diagnosed, we were very, very open kind of from the beginning. I mean, you had your own time to process it, but I think for us, we had so much support. We had a lot of good support. We do have people that still like we've explained this disease to, and they still
don't understand.
No, still don't understand.
I mean, the disease is confusing.
It is. I mean, we don't always understand it.
Yeah.
We do our best to keep learning.
If you don't understand, you should go to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
Yeah, their website is very helpful.
Yeah.
And that's why we're such a huge support of them because they work so hard to help us out.
Yeah.
So Mason doesn't always have to explain, or I don't always have to explain. But it was important for us that we found a way for him to heal. And like he said, he found out he liked speaking out about it. It gave him a sense of control over the disease.
Yeah.
And so that helped him out. And I also realized that it was good to educate people because I felt like maybe I'm going to help somebody else out there who is going to tell this person they have Crohn's and this person will have heard from me and get a good perspective on it so that they'll understand.
Someone else understands.
Right. So they won't say, well, the only way to treat this is 2 biologics because I talked to this other kid and he had it. So hopefully their takeaway from us would be this disease can affect everyone very differently. And so I shouldn't judge until you tell me, what you want to. And I'm not going to tell you how to live your life based on this other person I know with it. So I think educating people is always good. That's what we like to do, but it's also not your responsibility. You're not the one that has to do that.
You're
but
the one with the disease.
Yeah, it's just something that you shouldn't have to do. But at the same time, I think if you are willing to talk about it, it's helpful. I think it's important.
Something important talking to someone with Crohn's disease or any disease that you don't really know about that much, or you think you may know a lot about. Don't tell someone what will work for them because you're basing it off of a friend. But you haven't really researched the disease. Instead, ask questions to that person. Asking questions makes the person feel like you actually care and you're interested in to hear more about what is going on with them and how they are treating it and what's going on.
Right.
But you're just telling them something. You may not be intending it to be mean to them.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It might sound rude to the person or like you're just trying to put them off and say something to make them feel better.
Right. So like being dismissive kind of it. Yeah. So I think asking questions is really a smart idea and it shows they're listening. So, but if you feel like you're talking to somebody and it's not going that direction, there's no need to keep going with it. It's some people are just not going to understand and you don't need to stress yourself out over that. But we just like to talk about it and help others if we can when, we are speaking on it. And me personally, my thought is I want to bring more light to this disease for caregivers too. So they understood and like whoever, I'm a parent and a caregiver. I'm a parent first, but I use the role caregiver for this podcast. But there's a lot of caregivers out there that are different roles in this person's life. And I always want to help them too. So they believe whoever it is, whether it's their spouse or their friend or their child or family member, whatever. I want them to understand that, listen to them and not just form their own opinions. And so kind of like from a caregiving standpoint and from a friend standpoint, that's where I like to why I like to talk about this to help others. I think that communication is just really good. That's another good reason to talk about it because I think it's
help others
just
learn about the disease.
Yeah. And like that way, if like you say something like if say there's a trigger food and you're going somewhere and you can't go and you can at least explain, oh, hey, you guys are all going to get pizza. I can't have that. So I'm not going. And instead of you just like maybe saying, no, I'm not going and having them feel like you don't
You didn't
like
want to
them.
go. Yeah.
You're kind of
Just
explaining
explain why you can't go.
Right. So those are things I think that are good,
So
but
you have a better reason.
but it's still a personal thing. It's not something you have to talk about.
No, you don't have to.
I hope everyone listening has some kind of a close support team though, where there is somebody you can reach out to. And I do think like what we're talking about here is like owing explanations to people. But I do think explain like having therapy or having help if you need to talk about it, that's still very important. That's very different. This is more along the lines of just feeling like somebody is asking you again about it and you don't feel like you want to talk about it and you don't have to. But yeah, if you're talking to a medical team or your therapist, those are times you're really open. And your support team, whoever's close to you, I think that is really important. And I'm glad
understand what you're feeling and what's going on so they can help you better.
Yeah, that's why I'm thankful Mason is open with me and help because it helps me so I know how to better help him. That's the only way I really can. I like to explain a lot, so hopefully somebody else doesn't have to. Maybe Mason talking about it helps somebody else out too. And that way you guys don't have to over explain. And next time you just say I have Crohn's disease,
they'll understand.
They'll kind of understand and maybe they'll want to ask you a few questions and maybe you feel comfortable with that person and you don't mind answering them. And you shouldn't ever let anyone push you into being uncomfortable or, or bully you into anything. That's like with anything. It's important. So it's all how you feel
comfortable with.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is kind of a shorter podcast, but we had a very long weekend.
Yes, we did.
And we also
the walk was really fun though. The
Yeah.
walk was 1 mile. But it felt very short because my friend was there and
they were talking and having fun the whole time walking and
it's right next to not next to the beach, but there's a little
it's next to
river that connects to
it's part of the ocean.
Okay, part of the ocean, yeah.
We're next to the ocean.
It's a really relaxing little
walk. So yeah, we're lucky we have lots of different places here we could walk and they're all so nice. And so yeah, it was really nice, but it had the day before we were at Rady's. Mason had to get an infusion, so we were in San Diego for that. And then the next day we were back down there for the walk. And at the same time, Mason was working on final exams, reviewing, and he had to do that. So today, this is a Monday. We don't usually film on a Monday, but we are even delayed on this.
Yes.
But we wanted to make sure we put this out there because some of you who we met, and I mean, I feel like some of you were newly diagnosed and maybe you're feeling like it's still shy about talking about it. And I just want to make sure everyone feels like okay wherever they're at. There's going to be people who are like us and are like, blah, blah, blah.
And then there's people who are like,
don't really
good.
Yeah, they're just like, I have, so we just wanted to make you feel like, make sure you all feel accepted any way you are and feel comfortable. Yeah, it's important. And we just kind of wanted to jump in and do this and regroup after Take Steps. And we'll have our next week, we'll have another, more regular episode out. But this was just kind of a leading off from Take Steps. Yeah, just something quick and and
Take Steps.
Mason's going to have a little bit of time off too. So we have a little break here. And then he is going to be starting
English 100
for summer school. So I think it'll be fun. We'll tell you guys all about it. We'll keep you guys all posted.
About Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use Crohn's Class Foundation.
I know they're a great resource, which I recommend that to anybody writing. If you need an idea for a research paper and you have this, I think Crohn's Class Foundation is a good leaping off point. They're, as always, very helpful. We're so thankful to them and for the exciting and fun weekend and for meeting all of you guys who are new listeners and our old listeners who are still listening. We appreciate it. And as we always do, we ask for comments.
Yes.
Please let us know if there is anything you'd like us to talk about.
Yeah, if you have any ideas or things we miss in this episode, or if you have any ideas for future episodes, let us know in the comments. We love to hear your comments and we read each of them.
Yeah, because it's important because like we said, this disease is so different. And so when we speak, we are always talking about, what we also learn. We don't just speak about Masons. We collectively listen to a lot of things and read a lot. And so we do a lot of research into this disease, but as far as like personal experiences, it's Mason's.
Mhm.
And if you guys are having a different experience, I think there is somebody else listening that will have that too, or have something similar. So we want everyone to be able to relate and feel, you know,
Understood.
understood. And so it can only help if you guys reach out. And if it's even if your symptoms are different than Mason's, your
Mhm.
treatments are different, it is still important to talk about, and we'd love to hear it. So
Yes.
you guys can follow us on Team IB Determined on Instagram. You can also follow the Reggie Project if you guys want to start sharing pictures with
Yes,
Reggie
Reggie,
over the
yeah.
summer. There's a lot of
Wouldn't that be
opportunities.
cool if someone took a picture with Reggie at Take Steps?
Yes.
Well, for next year.
Yeah, I know. Well, see, and that would be a cool idea. I was focused on the podcast this time, but I think next year it'd be fun to have a Reggie
Yeah.
and ask people to take pictures with it.
Reggie walk.
Yeah, so that'd be kind of
Yes.
fun. I think that'd be cool. But you guys give that a follow, and it's really trying to create a community where you don't have to like speak all about it, but a
Mhm.
picture can share your story.
Yeah.
And also just kind of create awareness. It doesn't have to be IBD either. It can be anything, but we'd
Yeah.
like to help you raise awareness so you don't have to. And we can be a voice too for you guys if you would like. So you guys can continue listening to us on any of our podcast stations like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts, and now on YouTube as well.
And if you are on YouTube and you want to watch and listen to us, make sure you just go to the normal videos. And if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure to give us a like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified about every time we post a video, make sure to hit that bell icon.
Yes.
And we already talked about commenting, so I think that's all.
That's about it.
And there'll be a link in the description for Buzzsprout, which has a link to all the
Yes.
other podcasts.
Yes.
So make
we
sure
will
to
have
check that
that for
out.
you guys. So that's it. Today was a short episode, but just something we felt was important, and based on kind of what we talked about yesterday, Take Steps, I thought, hey, it's a perfect time to share it. So hope you guys enjoyed it. And if we met you guys, I hope you guys had a good day yesterday, Take Steps too.
Say
So
hi in the comments.
yes, let us know. And you guys have a great day, weekend, week, whatever it is. Make it a good one. And we'll see you
In the
on
next episode.
Bye.
Bye. We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.